The United States and Israel have continued striking Iran, and its chain of command has been shattered from the top down. Iran once boasted it had 4 layers of backup leadership, but now whoever steps up is immediately eliminated. That is why President Trump is openly calling on the remaining forces to lay down their weapons, while urging the people to rise up and take back power. Analysts say these strikes will not stop until the current regime is completely removed from power. Trump declared that thousands of Iranian security personnel, police, soldiers, even senior officials are now seeking surrender and immunity. His message was blunt: surrender now and live, or face far harsher consequences later. He insisted U.S. operations are continuing at full force and will not stop until every objective is achieved. At the same time, he called on ordinary Iranians to be strong enough to reclaim their own country. We can now confirm that Iran's supreme leader has been killed, along with those positioned to replace him. Iranian media reported that Mojtaba Khamenei, long seen as his father's successor, was also killed in the airstrikes. Under Iran's constitution, if no successor is ready, a 3-man council temporarily takes control of the country. That council includes the president representing the executive branch, alongside figures from the judiciary and the religious authority. One of those powerful figures publicly confirmed that this interim leadership structure is now in place. But another key member of that council, Ayatollah Iraqi, has reportedly already been eliminated. Israeli media confirmed he was killed in the latest strike on Tehran, almost immediately after being designated to assume authority. The message is unmistakable. Anyone stepping into the top tier of power becomes an immediate target. Another senior figure, Brigadier General Mohammad Shirazi, head of the Supreme Leader's office, was also killed in Tehran. Israeli officials even claimed that within just 60 seconds, 40 high-ranking Iranian officials were eliminated, collapsing the regime's leadership spine entirely. This level of precision would not have been possible without deep intelligence penetration inside Iran's inner circle. Fox News confirmed that the CIA had tracked the supreme leader for months, waiting for the exact moment he gathered his top officials in one place. They struck precisely when he was meeting senior commanders inside his residential compound. But external surveillance alone cannot explain how detailed the strike intelligence was. The information appeared so exact that it strongly suggests insiders were feeding real-time data from within. Even more astonishing, Iran had formed a special council to hunt down Mossad operatives. Yet the head of that very anti-Mossad unit, along with 20 others, turned out to be working for Mossad themselves. This war is no longer just military, it is an intelligence war unfolding in plain sight. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has officially entered the fight, launching missiles toward Israel. Israel intercepted one missile and diverted another, with no reported casualties. But Hezbollah warned this was only the beginning, calling it retaliation for the death of Iran's supreme leader. Other Iranian-backed groups, including the Houthis and Hamas, could soon follow. At the same time, Gulf and Arab states are drawing their own red lines. Countries including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates signaled they will retaliate if Iran continues attacking them. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warned that the greatest danger now would be allowing Iran time to recover. If the regime regains strength, he argued, it will inevitably strike back against both the United States and Israel. Standing atop Israel's defense ministry, Prime Minister Netanyahu declared that this war will intensify in the coming days. He said, Israel has waited more than 40 years for this moment and will pursue its objective to the very end. President Trump said this campaign could last up to 4 weeks, calling it a necessary mission against a vast nation. In the past 36 hours, he announced, the United States and its partners launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest military assaults ever seen. He claimed hundreds of Iranian targets were struck, including Revolutionary Guard facilities and advanced air defense systems. He confirmed the former supreme leader is dead and declared that his hands were stained with the blood of countless innocents. Trump said celebrations echoed across parts of Iran when news of the leader's death broke. He added that Iran's entire senior military command structure has been wiped out. According to him, thousands are now reaching out, seeking surrender and pleading for immunity. The operations, he insisted, will continue at full strength until every American objective is fulfilled. He acknowledged that 3 American service members have been killed and others wounded in the opening phase. He warned the public that more losses may come before the campaign ends. But he vowed that the United States will answer those sacrifices with overwhelming retaliation. He said America and Israel have never been more united or more determined. In his words, the United States remains the most powerful nation on earth because of those willing to fight its enemies. He argued that a missile-armed, nuclear-capable Iranian regime would pose a catastrophic threat to Americans everywhere. He declared that such a regime must never be allowed to blackmail the world with terror. For nearly 50 years, he said, Iranian leaders have fueled violence while chanting death to America and death to Israel. He described Iran as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism and said that reality can no longer be tolerated. Once again, he called on Iran's Revolutionary Guard, military, and police to lay down their weapons or face certain destruction. He urged patriotic Iranians who long for freedom to seize this moment and reclaim their nation, and he closed by promising that the United States will stand beside them. But the final step now belongs to the Iranian people. President Trump made it clear that America and Israel have already defined their objective with absolute clarity. The real question now is whether the Iranian people are strong enough to rise at this decisive moment. They have long expressed their frustration and their desire for change, but will they finally seize control of their own future? This moment, he suggested, may be their only window to reclaim their country once and for all. And according to the latest updates, the United States has officially launched B-2 bombers to strike Iran's underground missile bunkers. With bunker-buster bombs, they shattered entire missile chambers, burying hundreds of ballistic missiles beneath concrete and steel. In a single wave of attacks, Iran's air defense network and missile launch systems were effectively crippled. The B-2 Spirit stealth bombers flew out of Missouri and headed straight for Iran's most fortified underground sites. They released dozens of 2-ton bunker-buster bombs, powerful enough to collapse hardened missile facilities. After repeated precision strikes, the tunnel entrances caved in, sealing the bunkers from the inside. This marked a dramatic escalation in America's campaign, shifting from surface targets to the deepest buried infrastructure. By now, dozens of penetrating bombs have fallen, and hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles are either destroyed or entombed underground. In sheer desperation, Iran's leadership has begun using its own civilians as human shields. State media confirmed that a missile fired by Iran's Revolutionary Guard struck a girls' school, killing 148 students. The destruction was overwhelming, and 148 is only the first confirmed number, with fears it may rise. At the same time, political prisoners and recent protesters were released and moved into government compounds and military bases. Iran's navy even fired on its own oil tanker, injuring 15 Indian sailors and 5 Iranian crew members. The missile strike set the tanker ablaze in the Strait of Hormuz, leaving it burning and partially sinking at sea. Now, in a widening spiral, Iran has begun striking neighboring Gulf states with increasing intensity. Officials across the region say they are shocked by the brutality and the scale of the retaliation. What began as military exchanges has now spilled into residential areas and crowded commercial centers, with civilians paying the price. Some voices claim the Pentagon is under pressure, even suggesting America's missile stockpile could run dry. After striking more than 1,000 targets, critics argue the intensity of these attacks cannot be sustained. But that assumption ignores a critical reality. If anyone runs out first, it will be Iran. Iran possesses roughly 2,500 medium-range missiles, and hundreds have already been fired or destroyed. In just a single day, between 250 and 300 missiles were launched, while 500 launchers were wiped out. That means at least 20% of Iran's total missile capacity has already been eliminated. At this pace, their remaining stockpile would only last a few more days of sustained fire. Independent war analysts now confirm that the United States and Israel hold overwhelming air and firepower superiority. Their combined strikes have expanded beyond military sites, targeting the internal security forces responsible for past crackdowns. Nearly 90% of Iranians living abroad are voicing support for President Trump. In Los Angeles, crowds filled major boulevards, singing American songs and openly backing the strikes. In Washington, D.C., the scene was just as powerful, with demonstrators rallying in visible solidarity. Reports even describe aircraft flying overhead with banners thanking Trump on behalf of the Iranian people. Yet inside Iran's leadership, the signals coming out of Tehran could not be more contradictory. Within just 48 hours, 3 separate power centers issued 3 completely opposing messages. With no unified command after Khamenei's death, the regime now appears fractured at its core. With the supreme leader gone, Iran's power structure has effectively collapsed from the top down. The only figure who could balance competing factions is dead, and no one has stepped forward to unify them. The Temporary Leadership Council announced after his death is already fractured, with 1 member killed and the others missing from public view. Meanwhile, the president holds the title, but real authority appears to rest elsewhere. Inside and outside the country, many Iranians are celebrating, but celebration alone cannot change a regime. The real question now is whether the Iranian people will seize this moment or watch it slip away. If you want the earliest, sharpest analysis as this story unfolds, make sure you follow the channel and stay with us.